Evelyn Parker sat by the bay window of her Illinois home, watching the autumn leaves tumble down her neatly manicured lawn. The house, once filled with laughter and companionship, now echoed only with silence. Her husband, Andrew Parker, had passed away 3 years ago, leaving her with memories too painful to revisit, yet impossible to ignore. At 49, Evelyn still radiated an unstated beauty. Her short auburn hair framed a kind face marked with faint lines of laughter and sorrow. Her fortune, inherited from Andrew's thriving construction business, offered her every material comfort, but did little to fill the void in her heart. Friends encouraged her to travel, to join clubs, to put herself out there. But Evelyn found solace in the quiet routines of her life. Across the Atlantic, in Accra, Ghana, a young man named Kwame Mensah was preparing for a different kind of future. At 30, he had dreams of success that extended far beyond his homeland. Bright and ambitious, Kwame had left Ghana in 2015 on a student visa to pursue a master's degree in the U.S. His family had pooled their resources to send him abroad, believing in his potential. Only 5% of those who watch my videos are subscribed. If you are enjoying my contents, please subscribe, as this helps me a lot. Thank you, and enjoy this video. But the harsh realities of life in America soon hit Kwame. By 2017, his visa had expired, and he faced the prospect of returning home empty-handed. Kwame refused to let that happen. He devoured forums and advice columns, studying every possible avenue to stay in the country. When he stumbled upon stories of immigrants obtaining green cards through marriage, the idea lodged itself firmly in his mind. It was risky, but Kwame was nothing if not resourceful. Evelyn didn't want to attend the charity gala. The event, organized by her local church, felt like an obligation more than a joy, but Clara, her best friend and confidant, insisted. "You need to get out, Evelyn," Clara urged. "It's been too long since you've done something for yourself." The gala was held in the grand ballroom of a Chicago hotel. Clusters of well-dressed attendees mingled, sipping wine and bidding on silent auction items. Evelyn wandered through the room, her smile polite but her heart distant. That was when she noticed him. Kwame Mensah stood near the bar, his lean frame dressed in a tailored navy suit. His deep brown eyes scanned the crowd with the confidence of someone used to making an impression. When their eyes met, he offered her a warm smile. "Good evening," Kwame said, extending a hand. His voice was smooth, his Ghanaian accent adding a melodic lilt to his words. "I'm Kwame. And you are?" "Evelyn," she replied, surprised by the flutter in her chest. Their conversation flowed effortlessly. Kwame spoke of his upbringing in Accra, his love for literature, and his admiration for the evening's charitable cause. Evelyn found herself laughing at his anecdotes and marveling at his charm. For the first time in years, she felt truly seen. And when the new year came, she dedicated herself to planning this publication for self-book. Kwame, for his part, was calculating every word. He had attended the gala with one goal: to meet someone who could change his circumstances. Evelyn, with her poised demeanor and air of affluence, fit the profile perfectly. Kwame's strategy was subtle, yet deliberate. Over the following months, he courted Evelyn with an intensity that left her both flattered and overwhelmed. Kwame laughed less vigorously, but eventually stepped to him and caught him before he could hurt himself in truth. He sent her thoughtful messages each morning, brought her flowers without reason, and listened attentively as she spoke about Andrew and her years of loss. Evelyn was cautious at first, but Clara encouraged her to embrace the possibility of a new chapter. "I haven't seen you smile like this in years," Clara remarked one evening over dinner. "Maybe it's time to let yourself be happy again." Kwame's charm extended to Evelyn's social circle, but not everyone was convinced. Clara noticed the slight, rehearsed quality in his affections and the way he deflected personal questions about his past. Still, Evelyn dismissed her concerns. "He's kind, attentive, and he understands me." Evelyn insisted. "I think Andrew would have wanted me to move on." By the spring of 2018, Kwame proposed. The moment was picturesque, a quiet evening in Evelyn's garden, with fairy lights twinkling above them. "I want to spend my life making you happy," Kwame said, sliding a diamond ring onto her trembling finger. Evelyn accepted, tears streaming down her face. Their wedding was a modest but elegant affair. Evelyn, resplendent in a cream silk gown, looked radiant despite her nerves. The guest list was small, limited to close friends and family. Clara stood by her side as maid of honor, her smile warm but her eyes wary. For Kwame, the wedding was a calculated triumph. He had secured his path to legal residency, but he knew the real work was just beginning. To immigration authorities, their marriage would have to appear flawless for at least 2 years before he could apply for permanent status. The early months of their marriage were idyllic on the surface. Kwame immersed himself in Evelyn's world, accompanying her to church functions and dinner parties. He even took on home improvement projects, painting walls and repairing furniture to impress her friends. Evelyn, who had spent years in solitude, reveled in the companionship. She often confided to Clara, "I feel like I've been given a second chance." But behind closed doors, Kwame's resentment simmered. He found Evelyn's routine stifling, her constant reminiscing about Andrew tiresome. It was during this period that Kwame met Amakusi. The cultural festival in Chicago brought together the Ghanaian diaspora, and Kwame, nostalgic for home, attended out of curiosity. Ama, a 28-year-old nurse with an infectious laugh and a passion for her heritage, was immediately drawn to him. Their connection was electric, and Kwame quickly began a covert affair. To Ama, Kwame portrayed himself as a man trapped in an unhappy marriage of duty. "Evelyn is a kind woman, but we were never meant for each other," he told her one evening. Ama, believing his story, sympathized and encouraged him to follow his heart. As Kwame juggled his double life, Evelyn began noticing subtle changes. Kwame grew more distant, spending hours away under the pretext of business meetings. When Evelyn voiced her concerns, Kwame deflected with charm, assuring her that he was merely stressed. By 2020, Kwame had obtained his conditional green card, but he was growing impatient, and he fantasized about a life with Ama, unencumbered by the charade. Divorce, however, was not an option. It would cast suspicion on the legitimacy of his marriage and jeopardize his residency. In his desperation, Kwame began researching more permanent solutions. Late at night, while Evelyn slept, he scoured the internet for information on poisons. His meticulous nature led him to a rare toxin that mimicked the symptoms of a degenerative illness. It was slow-acting, undetectable in standard medical tests, and perfect for his needs. Kwame's plan was as cruel as it was calculated. Each morning he prepared Evelyn's tea, a ritual she cherished as an act of his love, and added a minuscule amount of the poison. The effects were gradual. Evelyn began experiencing fatigue, occasional nausea, and unexplained aches. At first, Evelyn attributed her symptoms to aging. Kwame feigned concern, insisting she visit a doctor. "I just want you to be healthy," he said, his tone laced with false sincerity. Her primary physician, Dr. Kofi Ose, ran a battery of tests, but found no clear cause for her condition. Over the following months, Evelyn's health deteriorated further. She became frail, often too weak to leave the house. Friends noticed the change, but Kwame's devoted care convinced them of his sincerity. Clara, however, remained uneasy. She noticed how detached Kwame seemed during Evelyn's moments of vulnerability. "He says all the right things, but something about him feels off," she confided to her husband. By late 2020, Evelyn's condition had worsened to a point where her daily life became a struggle. What began as mild fatigue had evolved into persistent weakness, frequent nausea, and debilitating pain. The once vibrant woman who had found love again was now a shadow of herself, confined to her home most days. Kwame maintained the appearance of a devoted husband. He accompanied Evelyn to every doctor's appointment, took notes diligently, and often spoke on her behalf when she was too exhausted to explain her symptoms. To outsiders, he was the picture of compassion. However, Clara was unconvinced. She visited Evelyn often, sitting by her bedside to offer comfort. "I don't understand why the doctors can't figure this out," Clara said one afternoon. Evelyn managed a weak smile. Kwame thinks it might just be stress, or something related to my age. He's been such a blessing through all of this." Clara nodded, but remained silent. She couldn't shake the feeling that Kwame's attentiveness felt more like a performance than genuine care. He always seemed to hover just long enough to be noticed, but never lingered when he thought no one was watching. While Evelyn's health continued to decline, Kwame's relationship with Ama flourished. They often met in Chicago, far from the prying eyes of Evelyn's social circle. Ama, believing Kwame's story of being trapped in a loveless marriage, supported his decision to stay for duty, but encouraged him to think of his future. One evening, as they shared dinner at a Ghanaian restaurant, Ama said, "You deserve to be happy, Kwame. You can't sacrifice your entire life for someone else's expectations." Kwame took her hand, his expression somber. "You're right, Ama, but things must be handled carefully. I can't just walk away." What Ama didn't know was that Kwame had no intention of simply walking away. He had already begun increasing the dosage of poison in Evelyn's tea, accelerating her decline. Her symptoms now included dramatic weight loss and neurological issues that baffled her doctors. Dr. Osei, however, began to suspect something was amiss. After months of inconclusive tests, he noticed a troubling pattern in Evelyn's symptoms, consistent with exposure to certain toxins. Though rare, the possibility of poisoning couldn't be ruled out. He quietly ordered a toxicology screening, hoping it might provide answers. As Evelyn grew weaker, whispers began circulating among her friends and neighbors. Some noted Kwame's frequent absences, while others questioned his unusually calm demeanor given his wife's condition. Clara, still uneasy, decided to confront Kwame directly. She found him in the garden one afternoon, tending to the flowers Evelyn had once loved. "Kwame," Clara began cautiously, "I need to ask you something. Do you think there's more to Evelyn's illness than what the doctors are saying?" Kwame looked up, his expression carefully neutral. "Clara, I understand your concern. This has been hard on all of us, but I trust the doctors are doing everything they can." His calm response did little to quell Clara's doubts. That evening, she confided in her husband again. "I don't know what it is, but I feel like something isn't right. I'm going to keep a closer eye on him." By early 2021, Evelyn's health had reached its lowest point. She was bedridden, relying on Kwame for even the simplest tasks. Friends and family rallied around her, but Kwame skillfully kept them at arm's length, citing Evelyn's need for rest. Unbeknownst to him, the toxicology results ordered by Dr. Osei revealed traces of a rare substance in Evelyn's blood, one not commonly found in nature. Concerned, Dr. Osei alerted the authorities, who began a quiet investigation into Evelyn's case. Detectives reviewed Evelyn's medical records, noting the progression of her symptoms alongside Kwame's financial transactions. What they found was troubling. During the same period, Kwame had made purchases of items linked to handling hazardous substances. Further digging uncovered his online search history, which included queries like slow-acting poisons and natural deaths from poisoning. The evidence began to paint a chilling picture of premeditated harm. Evelyn passed away quietly one rainy spring night. Kwame staged his grief masterfully, weeping openly at her funeral and delivering a heartfelt eulogy. "Evelyn was my rock, my light," he told mourners, his voice breaking. "Her kindness and love will never be forgotten." But behind closed doors, Kwame felt relief. With Evelyn gone, he believed he was finally free to live the life he had envisioned. He began moving forward with Ama, openly dining at restaurants and looking for a new apartment in Chicago. However, the investigation was closing in. Detectives interviewed Clara, who shared her suspicions and anecdotes of Kwame's behavior. Ama, when confronted, initially defended Kwame, but grew uneasy as evidence of his deceit surfaced. In the months following Evelyn's death, the case against Kwame solidified. Forensic analysis of his laptop revealed detailed research on poisons, deleted emails about purchases, and a timeline that correlated perfectly with Evelyn's symptoms. Ama, devastated by the betrayal, agreed to cooperate with authorities. Her testimony about Kwame's claims of being trapped and his desire for freedom added weight to the prosecution's case. In court, Kwame's defense argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that he had merely been researching ways to help Evelyn. But the timeline of his actions, combined with expert testimony on the rarity of the toxin found in Evelyn's body, left little room for doubt. The jury deliberated for just 2 days before delivering a guilty verdict. Kwame was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Evelyn's estate was donated to charities supporting vulnerable women in Ghana and the U.S., a testament to her generosity. Her friends and family mourned her loss, but took solace in knowing justice had been served. Kwame, isolated and ostracized in prison, spent his days reflecting on the choices that led him there. The life he had so desperately sought was now a distant dream, replaced by a grim reality of regret and isolation. Evelyn's story became a cautionary tale about trust, betrayal, and the lengths some will go to achieve their ambitions.